Hey everyone, it's Tom Kradza. So we put out a picture of some books that we read and we got a bunch of questions over these books and we didn't really discuss the books. Books to us were our primary mentors and they're still our primary mentors. And some books really hold a special place in our hearts. And that's why I want to share these ones with you. So I'm going to kind of start from the top here. This book, Think and Grow Rich, really changed our minds. We read this in our early 20s and it taught us the idea about visualization, writing down your goals, accurate thinking, your subconscious mind. This really blew us away and changed our thinking of what's possible in our lives. So if you're in your early 20s and you're trying to figure yourself out, but you don't know what direction you want to go in, highly recommend Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This is an absolute classic. If you talk to entrepreneurs across the world, you'll find a whole bunch of them have read Think and Grow Rich. The next one is a book by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Actually, I want to talk about this book first from him. It's same author, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is the book that I personally read when I got into sales. And it really taught me how to deal with people, how to relate with people, how to speak with people. And it helped in the sales, my own sales development. If you haven't read this, and you are in sales, this is an absolutely mandatory read. I highly recommend it. My son is going to start working with us soon, and this is one of the books that I'm going to make him read. Can you make a 19-year-old read? I'm going to make him read this book. I'll have to use my powers of persuasion that I learned from this book to make him read this book. And this was another book by the same author, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. This book by Dale Carnegie really opened my mind to the idea that life is going to be okay. That you don't always have to freak out if things don't go your way. I'm not saying you freak out, but maybe I was freaking out. In my mid-20s, I think I did freak out thinking that I had went to school, done everything right, quote unquote right, and didn't really see my life unfolding the way I thought it should when it comes to finances and a career. And I think this book really taught me to settle down, get a game plan together, and just live day to day and stay in the moment. So hugely valuable book for me in my 20s. That was the era I read that particular book. Okay, this book, The Sovereign Individual. I read this book about 20 years ago and it's making the rounds strongly right now, especially in the Bitcoin community. When I put this book down about 20 years ago when I read it, I knew I had read something really great, but I didn't really know how great until I recently reread this book. This book calls out the idea of an e-cash system, so basically Bitcoin. It also talks about how governments are starting to lose their power and they're going to be starved of their tax base, and how it's going to be the return of the individual and the return of the individual having sovereignty or power over their own lives in a much better way than we've had maybe over the last 10 or 20 years. Highly recommend this old book, but highly recommend that book. This book by Stephen R. Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What this book taught us was how to prioritize our time. So time management. He has this 4 quadrants strategy where you can divide up your priorities for the day and the week and the month. And it really teaches you how to focus on the highest priority things that are going to get you toward your goals instead of all the little reactive stuff that is just busy work. So this really clarified that for us. And if you're struggling with time management in any capacity, a lot of the things that we used over the years with time management were all about like scheduling your day into chunks and doing different things at different times of the day. And maybe you could hold that together for a few days, but it always seemed to fall apart on us. Whereas this book taught us about priority management and really dividing things up into his 4 quadrants, illustrated that for us better than anything we'd ever done. I used to carry an index card in my pocket for probably 4 or 5 years with my quadrants and all the different things I wanted to achieve in those quadrants. And I would look at it. If I was at the store and pulling up my wallet, waiting in line, I would look at those quadrants every day and I would fill out that index card with his 4 quadrants and write down all my priorities the night before, and then the morning of the next day, I would pick up the little index card, and that would be my guide for what I had to get done that day. That really probably changed my life and productivity and how much I could do in a single day. Cash flow quadrant, I'm sure many of you know Rich Dad, Poor Dad stuff. If you're not familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, this is a book that I gave my kids in their early teens to read. It teaches you the difference between being an employee, owning assets and liabilities, being self-employed via a business owner and an investor. Highly, highly recommend this book. It is the best high-level overview of the difference between being an employee and entrepreneur and what each gets you. Highly recommend Robert Kiyosaki's book there. And then this book, maybe this is a bit of a selfish one, Wealth Won't Wait by Mike DeZormo. This is somebody on our team here at Rockstar who's basically used a lot of the real estate strategies that we all talk about here at Rockstar and worked with investors on the streets across Ontario. And then in his book, he shared all the stories of local Canadian investors who are accomplishing their goals using real estate. And he's not talking theory like some of the other real estate books. In this book, he's talking about actual results with different strategies like duplexes and student rentals and rent-to-owns and long-term rentals and flipping properties. So highly recommend this book. This is a book that once you want to move past theory and actually see how people are doing things right in your own backyard here in the Greater Toronto area, he has it all documented here. Highly recommend Mike's book. Okay, the next book is Dan Kennedy's book, Magnetic Marketing. This changed our business lives. It taught us how to do lead generation in a proper way. And if you're in business for yourself, or you're going to go in business at any time for yourself, you need to understand how to pull in leads and get attention for your business. Dan Kennedy he has been a mentor to so many businesses, so many big businesses that you know of, and he's kind of like the silent guy behind the scenes guiding things. This particular book, Magnetic Marketing, by him, summarizes a lot of his core strategies for that in one little book. I cannot recommend this book enough. And Dan Kennedy in general, huge mentor to us. We've been to different conferences with him. We've hired him as a private mentor before. Can't speak highly enough about Dan Kennedy. Okay, if you like economic history and cycles of economics, The Fourth Turning by William Strauss and Neil Howe is a fantastic book. It talks about the different stages that an economy goes through, and it actually predicts right now what's happening in the 2020s as the fourth turning, and that how we're really due for some major upheavals in the economy. So if you like economic history and try to use old patterns to perhaps give you a clue into what might happen next, this is the best book for that. A lot of things we read really don't give good guidance when they use old models. This is one of the few books that does a great job of that kind of stuff. Okay, here's another book. This is a newer book. It's Time, A Beginner's Guide to Freedom by David Muhlenstein. And this is a great book. It is a short book, but he crams so much information into this book about how to live your life for freedom. And some of the things that I personally enjoy about this book is he talks about what the masses do or what everybody does, and how you are well advised to do the exact opposite of the masses. So this is another book that I'm going to get my son to read when he starts with us here at Rockstar. So highly recommend this book. I don't think it gets enough attention. Great book, short read, but jam-packed with great life information. So It's Time, A Beginner's Guide to Freedom. You can find that one on Amazon. Okay, next book. It's another Canadian author, Jeff Booth, The Price of Tomorrow. This book is fantastic for understanding how technology is influencing the economy. So if you study the economy at all, you might hear the words inflation and deflation. And the central banks are trying to impose inflation on the economy in everything that they are doing. And Jeff Booth talks about how there's a different system because of technology that is forcing deflation, and that how right now we have these two systems fighting each other, and one of them is going to win. And I think technology is going to win. This is an easy read, but the content of this book is absolutely mind-blowing. It's about a year old. If you have not picked up this book yet, highly recommend it. We've had Jeff Booth on the podcast twice now. Just a brilliant guy with fantastic insights who lays them out very clearly. The next book is The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous. We've also had Saifedean on the podcast. This is a fantastic book. The first 4 chapters specifically, the first 71 pages of this book, outline money better than I have ever understood it. So it takes you from like seashells to gold and silver coins to Bitcoin in a way that helps you understand what is going on with Bitcoin today in 2021. So if you're interested in money and savings in any capacity, and you're trying to figure out what's going on with Bitcoin, but you're not really sure, I cannot recommend this particular book highly enough. An absolutely fantastic read. And I've read a lot of books about money and the history of money. He does such a great job in this book. Highly recommend it. And then last book, I'm just getting into this one now. I haven't even finished it, but I'm enjoying it, so I thought I'd throw it in. This is more like a fun read. Liftoff, Elon Musk and the Desperate Early Days That Launched SpaceX. So just getting into this book right now, but I like these kinds of books because it gives you the insight into founders that are accomplishing big things. And Elon Musk is definitely one of those people, whether you love him or you hate him, the guy's an interesting character. So that's just a fun one that I'm enjoying right now. I love that kind of book. So that's it. There's a bunch of books for you that have had a huge impact on our lives. They acted as mentors to us. If you're looking for something to do and pick up a book, maybe there's something there for you. That's it for this episode of the Rockstar Minutes. Until next time, your life, your terms.